actually, before we get into Napoleon, I suppose I should briefly mention the passing of another great man of history, Dr. Henry Kissinger. And I just like to say, we've been expecting this for a long time now. And, had he died in the 90s, I think the feeling I might have felt a little differently about this. But the fact of the matter is, he died at 100, probably on a great cocktail of drugs, alone. He's probably with family, feeling loved, just drifting off into the ether, never having felt a moment's discomfort for anything he'd done in his life. And I'd like to say that that's totally appropriate because the man was a number one pussy getter of all time, despite being ugly as fuck. And number two, a peaceful death after a life well lived is something that I think anyone who has spent his entire life as a conscious agent of international communism deserves. So R.I.P. Henry.
I've been like dreading this day just because it would be like, it's kind of like, when mass shootings were like a big thing on Twitter and like everyone would post, people, please just be fucking kind to each other. How hard is it? It's the same type of thing. Henry Kissinger is like, he's like the one bad foreign policy guy that like stupid people know about. So you're just going to see the worst fucking posts of all time. And it's especially annoying when like, someone who's bad lives till like 190 and people are like, oh, you got corn cobbed. It really sucks dick. But, he's gone. He outlasted Reagan and the Reagan delegation. Those are the people that discovered he was a communist agent. And he won.
He won. I mean, just look at China today. I mean, he was the one that saw the hope for humanity's future lay with Comrade Mao Zedong. I guess I think Mark Ames said it best when it was just like, I'm reading all these obituaries about him. The most annoying tick that people have is to describe him as an evil Machiavellian genius, to be like, oh, he did some bad things, but he was truly a ruthless, realist political mastermind. And he really wasn't. I mean, he was really kind of just, if he had one skill above all else, it was flattery for those in power. And if he had one belief above everything else, it certainly wasn't realism or anything like that. It was just that he should be in power. And it doesn't really matter what he was doing as long as he was the guy in the room. And I just like the fact that like he spent probably the last 50 years of his life just going to parties in New York and DC and having people suck him off just shows how good he was at that.
Well, like, I just like the idea that like, oh my God, this guy was able to get other countries to do what America wanted. He has to be fucking the smartest man ever. Who could do that? Who could pull that off?
I mean, I'll say this for him. He did have that sort of educated European, ability to seem smart. I mean, he was, a curious person who read books and was able to express himself with big words. And if it's a pretty low bar for the American foreign policy establishment. So, compared to a lot of the people we've had in those roles, yeah, he does seem kind of like a genius, doesn't he?
I mean, in that regard, he shares it with. So he shares something of a similar characteristic with his longtime antagonist, Christopher Hitchens, which is that basically Americans will think you're an evil genius if you speak in a foreign language, and it doesn't really matter what you're saying or doing. And I guess I don't know. Like I think the way people talk about him, certainly in his obituaries, is that like he was the American century incarnate, and I think there's a certain truth to that. Being born in Germany, rising up, kissing ass all the way to Harvard. Destroying the Paris peace talks and prolonging the Vietnam War another 5 or 6 years. But like, I mean, he really did the most with ass kissing and being thought of as smart and cool. And he did get laid a lot. So, I mean, I think like in the grand total of a man's life, I think you do need to take that into consideration along with, East Timor and Cambodia.
Do you think that he saw like Anthony Blinken, the jazz minstrel show that Blinken was doing?
I think that's probably the last thing he saw.
Yeah.
I think they showed that to him like Edward G. Robinson and Soylent Green.
Can I just say how amazing it is that that's like the last thing Blinken did before?
Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah. He's like smooth sailing. Nothing's going on for the rest of this year. Time to become the blues man. And then just put down the guitar, Tony. You're not gonna have any time left to do that for the rest of the year.
And you look at him now, and he's just so deflated and defeated, and he wants to be back on that stage.
He's probably trying to like find excuses to do it more. He's like he's talking to like Netanyahu's cabinet, and he's like, "Well, what if I did a jazz benefit concert for the victims of 10/7?"
He's going to be like the David Hasselhoff playing at the Berlin Wall between Gaza and Palestine, and doing the Billy Crystal
Berlin Wall coming
down.
He's going to be playing the cotton picking blues at the erection of the new wall to cordon off the Sinai Desert concentration camp.
Do you think that like Kissinger saw that and was like, why didn't I get to do that?
Why didn't I learn to play guitar? I could have gotten laid so much more.
He just really wanted to be the blues man.
Kissinger famously said power is the ultimate aphrodisiac, but he wasn't counting on a blues rock cover.
Yeah. No, I would be surprised if Anthony Blinken is putting up anything less than Wilt Chamberlain numbers.